Have you ever witnessed someone who possesses an almost mystical ability to command their environment without uttering a single word? They don't raise their voices, don't plead, don't argue. Instead, they simply step back, and suddenly everything shifts. The atmosphere changes, people begin questioning themselves, and others start pursuing what was once readily available. What if you could harness this same power? What if instead of immediately reacting to every situation, you chose the path of silence? What if you selected strategic retreat over emotional explosion? The transformation that follows might surprise you. This is where true influence lies. When you cease being perpetually accessible, emotionally, physically, and psychologically, the world around you enters a state of imbalance. People have grown accustomed to controlling you through your reactions, your impulses, your predictable responses. But the moment you choose withdrawal, the entire game transforms, and those who believed they understood you realize they know nothing at all. Carl Jung observed that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. Consider this profound insight. When you become unreachable, who becomes frantic? Who grows irritated? Who attempts to provoke you simply to extract an emotional response? This behavior reveals far more about them than it does about you. It exposes how extensively you've been manipulated without your awareness. You continue surrendering yourself to maintain harmony, to avoid losing people who, fundamentally, were never truly committed to you. With every reluctant yes, every instant response, every emotional reaction, you forfeit a fragment of your vital energy. At day's end, what remains? Exhaustion, frustration, and an inexplicable emptiness. The reason is clear. You've become overly accessible to those who don't merit even a moment of your precious silence. This isn't about abandoning the world. It's about choosing yourself. It's about embracing what Jung termed individuation, the journey toward becoming complete, authentic, and whole. This transformation begins when you recognize that silence can be more powerful than countless arguments, and that strategic withdrawal, born from awareness rather than escape, represents an act of true strength. So I ask you directly, how much longer will you allow others' emotions to control you? How much longer will you react like a marionette every time someone manipulates your vulnerabilities? Perhaps it's time to sever those strings, to withdraw, to become an enigma. Because when you stop being available, everything changes. From childhood, you've been conditioned to believe your worth depends on your availability to others. You've been taught to be constantly present, to respond quickly, to please, to say yes, even when every fiber of your being wants to say no. Here's a truth rarely spoken with such clarity. This excessive availability isn't a virtue. It's a prison. As long as you believe you must be accessible at all times, emotionally or otherwise, you will be manipulated, drained, and discarded the moment you're no longer useful. Why does this happen? Because constant availability makes you predictable, and everything predictable becomes a tool. People begin treating you like an emotional emergency button. They press it when they need attention, relief, or validation, then return you to the shelf until the next crisis. You remain trapped in the illusion that being present for everyone will inspire someone to be present for you. But reciprocity doesn't function this way. Jung spoke about the persona, the mask we wear to gain acceptance, love, and recognition. It's precisely this mask that keeps you excessively available. You say it's fine when you're suffocating. You respond to messages immediately despite your exhaustion. You explain, justify, and defend yourself as if you owe the world an explanation. But here's the reality. The more you position yourself at the center of others' stages, the more you vanish from your own life. Being perpetually available is a subtle form of self-abandonment, a disguised method of seeking approval, avoiding rejection, and attempting to control others' perceptions of you. This control comes at a steep price. Your peace and vital energy, distributed as if it were infinite, when it's actually severely limited. If this message is resonating with you, I'd love your support. Subscribing is completely free, and it's the best way to encourage my work. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of people choosing themselves. Your support means everything to me, and it costs you nothing but helps tremendously. Jung didn't view the human psyche as an automatic machine responding to stimuli without consequence. For him, our mind operates like an energy system, where every thought, emotion, and action consumes a portion of that energy. The critical question is, are you consciously directing your energy, or are you allowing the world to decide for you? Every impulsive reaction wastes psychic energy. When you defend yourself against criticism that doesn't deserve attention, when you respond to provocations just to prove you're right, when you engage in pointless arguments, when you try pleasing those who don't value you, you're spending your inner strength on what doesn't nourish you. Jung was explicit. What you resist persists. The more you react, the more entangled you become. People living in emotional depletion aren't weak, they're misdirected. And when you're exhausted, you become vulnerable. When vulnerable, you become easy prey. Manipulative, opportunistic, and emotionally needy individuals can sense this. They recognize that you don't know how to protect your energy, that you react to everything, that you're constantly trying to fix the world, and they exploit it. A healthy psyche knows how to retain energy within the system. This means learning to say no without guilt, remaining silent without feeling cowardly, and observing before acting. True power isn't found in reacting, it's in choosing when and how to act. This is only possible when you know yourself well enough to recognize your own impulses. How often have you lost sleep over an unresolved conversation? How many hours have you spent ruminating over what you should have said or trying to understand why someone mistreated you? This is energy being drained without return. You're keeping alive ghosts that should have died long ago, feeding dynamics that exist solely because you insist on responding. Psychic energy is like a force field. When well protected, it creates presence. You enter a room and command respect without speaking. When poorly managed, you become invisible, reactive, fragile, and the world shows no mercy to those who surrender easily. Most people believe they're in control, that their reactions are conscious choices. But the truth is darker. Most emotional responses are programmed, and those who understand this manipulate you effortlessly. Opportunistic people don't need to shout, threaten, or force situations. They simply trigger the buttons you've left exposed, and you react, predictably, every time. This is where Jung's concept of projection becomes crucial. While others project onto you what they cannot see in themselves, you become the receptacle for these projections. The more emotionally available you are, the more you become a blank canvas for their expectations. You know the friend who only contacts you during crises, the partner who always needs you to save the day, the person who praises you but only when you're useful. None of this is coincidental. They're not relating to you. They're relating to the idea of you, to the role you've agreed to play. When you stop reacting, the game breaks. When you begin saying no, responding with silence, withdrawing instead of explaining, the projections crumble. The mask they've placed on you falls away, leaving people unsettled because they no longer recognize who you are. Worse yet, they're forced to confront themselves. And not everyone is prepared for that level of self-examination. Your unavailability threatens because it forces others to face their own emptiness. The silence you offer reveals the internal chaos they'd rather ignore. Then comes the backlash. Criticism, emotional drama, accusations. Not because you're wrong, but because you've stopped serving as a convenient mirror. The modern world is cacophonous. Everyone wants to be heard, to respond quickly, to win meaningless debates and prove their point, even at the cost of their own peace. But there exists a power few know and fewer master. The power of conscious, strategic, brutally lucid silence. Not the silence of passivity or cowardice, but silence as amplified presence. Jung saw silence not as emptiness, but as fertile ground for inner transformation. When you stop reacting, you begin observing. Through observation, you notice patterns previously hidden. Emotional repetitions, manipulation games, cycles of self-sabotage. Silence permits clarity, and clarity is dangerous for those who live to control you. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond, when you don't explain yourself, when you simply disappear? It's not because they miss you. It's because your silence removes their narrative control. While you speak, you remain in the game. When silent, you change the rules entirely. True silence isn't the absence of voice. It's mastery over your own energy. It's refusing to be dragged down by someone else's emotions. It's the conscious choice not to engage in battles unworthy of your investment. But silence has a price. It will distance you from people who only valued the role you played. It will make you incomprehensible to those who saw you only through their projections. It may make you seem cold, distant, even arrogant. All of this is merely a reaction from those who never wanted to engage with your depth, only your utility. The most powerful silence isn't the one that disturbs others. It's the silence that reconstructs you from within. This silence connects you to something beyond external approval. In this internal space, free from others' demands, you begin recovering your vital energy and reconnecting with your essence. Understanding this intellectually means nothing if you continue saying yes when you mean no, responding to messages that irritate you, participating in empty conversations, and maintaining relationships that exist purely from inertia. Awareness without action is just another form of self-deception. True transformation begins when you firmly decide to become selective. This requires emotional discipline. Conscious unavailability isn't about being cold, arrogant, or indifferent. It's about no longer being accessible to anyone at any time for any reason. It's about reclaiming control of your energy, your time, your peace. This starts with small actions, not responding immediately, breathing before reacting, leaving discussions before being dragged into chaos, turning off your phone without guilt, saying not today, saying I'm not interested, saying I won't get involved. Most importantly, you don't need to justify your absence. You don't need to explain your silence. You owe nothing to anyone but yourself. For many people, this is unforgivable. When you refuse to explain yourself, you remove their power to keep you trapped within an emotional narrative where you're always the helpful, understanding, accessible one. Jung understood that every individuation process involves isolation, not depressive isolation, but sacred isolation, a time of inner retreat where you relearn to listen to your own voice without the world's interference, where you rebuild your identity, not based on others' perceptions, but from your own center. Here's a reliable measure of your evolution. Observe who begins distancing themselves when you become more reserved. Notice who tries provoking you when you stop reacting. Watch who accuses you of changing when you finally start protecting yourself. These aren't signs that you're wrong. They're proof that you've begun liberating yourself. Being unavailable feels uncomfortable initially. You'll experience guilt. You'll think you're being selfish. You'll hear that you're too harsh. But this discomfort is part of the deconstruction process. You've spent your entire life conditioned to put yourself second. It's natural that change creates discomfort, not only in you, but in everyone who benefited from your old version. When you stop being available to everyone, something profound occurs. First comes silence. Uncomfortable silence that seems to scream within you. You question whether you've made the right choice, whether you're being too harsh, whether you're losing people who cared about you. But gradually this silence transforms. It begins to cleanse, to calm, to heal. Then comes solitude. Not the solitude of absence, but the solitude of total presence with yourself. The solitude of strength. The solitude of one who no longer betrays themselves to keep others close. In this space where confusion once reigned, clarity enters. Where anxiety once dominated, peace enters. Where neediness once controlled, a new kind of strength emerges. The strength of being complete within yourself. This is the point where you stop being a reactor and become a creator. You cease being shaped by circumstances and begin shaping your reality from within. The people uncomfortable with your absence reveal they never wanted you. They wanted the role you played. Now that you no longer fit their narrative, they don't know what to do with you. And that's liberating. You will lose people, but you will find yourself. You will distance yourself from places, but you will reconnect with your essence. You will become misunderstood, but finally you will begin to be respected. When you're no longer available for anything, you become valuable, rare, unforgettable. This is a rebirth, a fresh start, the beginning of a life where you're no longer available for emotional crumbs, mind games, or emptiness disguised as affection. Now, you only accept what resonates with your peace, your truth, your wholeness. True self-love begins when you choose yourself, even if it costs you periods of solitude. Being loved means nothing if maintaining that love requires abandoning yourself. The question remains, are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, or even disliked in the name of your inner freedom? Are you willing to pay the price of being authentically you? If this message has touched something deep within you, show your support by hitting the like button and sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below saying, I choose my peace. Let's see how many of you are ready for this transformation. Don't forget to subscribe for more content that challenges you to grow and become your authentic self. Remember, your journey to freedom starts with a single choice. Choose yourself today.